It's time for the Wally Methot Show. Now, here are your hosts, Brent Wallace and Marc Methot.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wally Methot Show. I'm Brent Wallace, and he's Marc Methot, who says he's in the best shape of his life because training camp is officially underway.
I wasn't prepared for that opening. I was just working out earlier, but my knees are still hot garbage. So I'm very top heavy in recent times here, Wally.
I'm so tired of I'm in the best shape of my life comment as everybody goes to training camp. Name me one guy that's ever come into camp and goes, man, I wish I was in better shape.
It's funny. It's funny because, I feel like we've had the same conversation last year around training camp, but it's always the same thing, right? The young guys coming in, putting on 10, 15 pounds. Oh my goodness. They're only putting on weight because they're still growing into a full-blown adult. And then the veterans come in roughly the same, on par, and just trying to maintain through camp. So yeah, I get it. It's just people are excited, man. And I think that's all it really comes down to.
And chances are they are in the best shape of their lives. It's actually fact. This show is always brought to you by Ridge Rock Beer, ridgerockbrewco.ca. Try the Amber Ale, the Blonde American Pale Ale, or my favorite new one, the Spro. It's Norwegian. You use the Wham Show for 15% off on your beer order. Get home delivery. Go to ridgerockbrewco.ca. And best of luck, by the way, to Calvin DeHaan, part owner of Ridge Rock Brewery, who is on a PTO in Carolina. Lots of things to talk about, by the way, including Marc Broussard on a PTO in Ottawa, which you foreshadowed earlier. We'll get to that in a sec. Let's get to the topic of the day, and that's Pierre Dorion and DJ Smith on Wednesday held their first presser. They haven't had one since I want to say the end of the season and perhaps the middle of the season. And that is the allegations regarding Drake Batherson and Alex Formenton. There has been nothing from the team about it really throughout the entire summer. And so today was the first time they got a chance to ask them questions. I was shocked that Pierre Dorion didn't start by actually addressing the allegations. I thought he should have just made a statement. And secondly, it took other questions before Ian Mendez from The Athletic, good friend of the show, finally asked the questions in which I get Meth. Pierre Dorion can't comment on the allegations. He says, I can't comment. One, it's an ongoing investigation. Two, the NHL has told me not to comment until the investigation's final. I get it. The only issue I had through all that was they should have addressed it right at the top and not had to wait for a reporter halfway through, after some questions got asked before that became the topic.
Yeah, I thought he handled it fine. I know we're obviously going to disagree here, only that I think we agree on most things with regards to this whole awful situation. But I mean, when you're the general manager, and this is probably more of a league issue, I think he's just pushing it towards the league, and he's probably been mandated or told to, reserve comment until the investigation ends. I understand what you're trying to say. I get it. And good on Ian for asking, of course. But I think at this point, I mean, Pierre, DJ, all these guys are so hyper-focused on hockey. We all know this is a very important issue and certainly something you want to snuff out of the game. I'm not going to sit here and throw a bunch of buzzwords that don't mean a whole lot. We obviously need to take action, make sure this stops fucking happening. Apologies for the F word. I think as far as the presser on Wednesday went, I mean, he's just doing his thing. And I'm sure the league has probably had these discussions with Pierre on this specific issue to not address it. And then until you're asked the question, to push it to the league and allow the investigation to just take place.
It just should have been off the top. It's the number one topic around the Ottawa Senators and the entire fan base at the moment. That should have been the first issue addressed. I understand there's not much to say, but what
do you want him to say?
So we get emails to the show. I want to say one or two a day about this topic and why more people aren't talking about it, why we shouldn't be completely condemning Drake Batherson and Alex Formenton. And here's what I want to say and I know we've addressed it in the past. I don't know what happened in that room. I wasn't there. I know there's an investigation going on. So unless I know that Alex Formenton and Drake Batherson are part of this, I don't know what to say. There's nothing I can say. A, I'm not going to bury them because I don't know the answer. And B, I'm going to wait to find out exactly what happened before comment. I think that's the right thing to do for everybody that wants everybody just to come out and jump all over this and say they need to just fade away into the abyss. I don't think that that's fair. I just want there to be answers before there's a comment. And if that's the case, and if they're in there and they're one of the main focal points of this, then you know what? We will address it at the time, and we will talk about this issue and the fact that this is completely unacceptable. But until that time, I don't have anything else to say.
No, but you just said it there, right? You can't really comment on it until you actually know what the hell went on. So I think at this point, it's like, let the investigation take place, Wally. And if you're the general manager, you're Pierre. I thought he handled it just fine. I thought he said all the right things. And again, I know you could argue that maybe he should open up with it, but I mean, like we said, good on Ian for asking. I thought Pierre handled it really well. And this is a tough situation. I mean, if you're managing a team, expectation levels are high, and you've got all kinds of distractions going on, it's a tough position to be put in. Now, of course, it's your responsibility to address it. I thought he did. Maybe you wanted him to address it right off the bat. That's beyond my line of understanding. I don't really know the proper protocol for this kind of stuff.
Wait a second. So if none of those reporters asked the question, you don't think that Pierre Dorion should have said something about the Drake Batherson, Alex Formanton Hockey Canada situation?
Well, I'm sure he knew that somebody was going to ask him that question. No.
So then start it right away, and you can put an end to it right away. You start by saying, listen, I know all of you have questions about Alex Formanton and Drake Batherson. Two things. I cannot comment by the league rules and by the ongoing investigation. I can't say anything. Two, Alex Formanton is not under contract. We're currently negotiating. He's a restricted free agent, much like Brady Tkachuk was at the beginning of last year. We continue to work through it. But until we A, reach an agreement on a deal, or B, the investigation comes to a close, I don't have any further comment.
Okay, so your criticism of the press conference today with regards to this topic in particular was that you think he should have opened up with this topic.
Yeah, because I think they should have addressed it sooner.
Well, whatever. Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Yeah. I don't have a rebuttal other than, it had to be answered at some point. He answered the question, and until we can all, get it really angry about it and start calling for heads, we have to wait for all the facts to come out. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. Fair enough. I agree. I just, and we've talked about, hockey culture needs to change. This stuff we need to solve this. So, but I will wait for the investigation to come to a close. So, and with that said, let's move on to on the ice topics. And there's plenty of them to talk about right now. And that's brought to you by Sports Interaction. sportsinteraction.com/Wally Methot. They are Canada's sports book leader. You can go to them. They'll match your first deposit up to $500 in sports bet credits once you place qualifying sports bets, and those bets have been settled. sportsinteraction.com/Wally Methot. They are going to have a great year as we pick and choose our way through games and to find out what will transpire as the Senators get through the 82 game schedule. Pierre Dorion said the expectations of this hockey team are to be playing meaningful games at the end of the season and to be in it at the trade deadline. Do you believe this will be fact by the trade deadline?
I really liked that press conference. I thought, like, when it came to some of those questions, I mean, the hockey one in particular, the way he answered that question, like, that's what we've been preaching, right? Like, we've been preaching that. We were preaching it last year and all summer, saying that the goal this season should be to, come spring, you want to be in the hunt. And I think, obviously Pierre mentioned that, which I really liked. And I think it's a no-brainer answer, but I think it's realistic. I think with this group, considering the fact, first of all, that you're looking at a very strong Eastern Conference, we have to understand this. Okay. Like, we can't downplay that fact alone, because look at some of these teams. There's not a whole lot of change or turnover in a lot of those lineups that we're seeing return. Florida was a bit in question. But other than that, I mean, for the most part, I mean, we're talking about 100-point seasons from those top 8 from last year. Ottawa, a completely different look in that hockey club. I like their odds, Wally. I still think they're going to be on the outside looking in. I hate repeating myself over and over again, but I like the comments from Pierre and DJ. The assessment from this group is, on paper, yeah, they look a lot better, but they still have to bring it. And they know the importance of the start. And the biggest takeaway for me, though, is just the attitude. Like, I was at the golf tournament there the other day, and you could just feel it, around that group. They look really tight. And that's typically what happens when you've got a young group growing up together and coming into the league together the way they have been. So, I mean, the chemistry will certainly be there. A lot of stuff working in their favor right now. So I've got some high hopes.
And we're going to get to that golf tournament one sec. Plus we'll get to, as always, the defensive pairings. But that being said, we have to.
I know.
If you you talked about them being, I guess, a tighter knit group and the camaraderie and all that stuff. Does it matter that much in a season for them to start skating together? And we kind of addressed it in the last show, but the way that they're trying to bond together, does it play a factor as they try to win hockey games?
Oh my God. There's no question. I mean, when you've got a tight group like that you're actually playing for each other and you don't have a bunch of individuals worried about their stats, worried about their next deal. I mean, we're talking about a group now that they've pretty well locked up most of that core. And man, that just juices the group up going into the year, right? Like you've got that instant chemistry right away. And when you're playing a long season and you've got 82 games and you're playing every other night, you got to find it. It's hard to find that motivation sometimes. So when you don't have that strong chemistry and you're going into another game, you're going into Boston, you're going to Montreal, you're flip-flopping all over the place, it can get very challenging. So it's a lot easier to pick each other up when you're tight and you've got a good group like that. And I honestly think that I'm not just throwing it out there, Wally. They look like they've got it figured out now. There's some pieces that need to improve here, but I think for the most part, you've got to be satisfied for the overall makeup.
I will say rarely do you ever throw anything out that you don't actually believe in. So I will take you at your word.
Thank
one
you.
thing I meant to come back when you talked about the teams in the East and how tight it will be and that they may be on the outside looking in. Have you looked at the injury list through the Eastern Conference?
No.
Like Tampa's suffering some injuries right now. Anthony Duclair is out in Florida. A couple others, if I'm not mistaken, like Detroit's battling through some injuries with some players. I think Boston has got a couple as well. Like there are teams that are, I'm going to say banged up as they start the season that have significant injuries. Tampa's are concerning to me. I think Sorelli's out until the new year. And someone else possibly, I don't know where Braden Point's injury status is, but I just feel like there is a chance here based on the way these teams are battling through some injuries.
Yeah. And okay, great. I mean, there are some injuries and I obviously don't wish opponents to get injured ever when I'm, especially on this side of the aisle now that I'm not really playing anymore, but it's opportunity. But when you're the Sens, you're in that locker room, you're not even paying attention right now. Maybe the coaches are a little bit aware, but I mean, for the players, the group, yes, they've got a great group put together. And I heard, Claude Giroux had a great quote about that at that golf tournament when he had his little presser with the media. He's like, we look great on paper right now, but you still have to get it together and pull it together as a group come game one of the regular season. And that's going to be the challenge for all these new players, Giroux and DeBrincat on your second line. They haven't played together. They haven't played with Stützle. You've got literally three players that are completely unfamiliar with each other on the ice. So I have no doubt that they're going to figure it out. They're probably going to get into this thing seamlessly, but nothing's certain. You're never guaranteed anything. So I think for them, it's like, just focus on what you have right now. Don't worry about all the injuries around the NHL. Worry about your own group and build from there.
I wasn't worried about the Sens. I'm just trying to get you on board with my playoff prediction. Okay. That's all I'm trying to do here.
And you did call it. And I have to give you that. You know what?
I'm telling you.
I can't just throw out some bold prediction without really paying any attention to the group and where they're at right now. Give me a few games.
Craig, please put the tweet in of the show where Meth says the Leafs won't be as good as the Sens in 2 to 3 years. When you talk about bold predictions.
Yeah, I know. Fair enough. I was trolling a little bit, but I do believe just based off of that core, and then of course, spending a little more money. We heard Pierre kind of touch on that a little bit as well during the press conference where he was like, I don't want to, and I believe it was Lisa. It was Lisa that asked the question. And he's like, I'm not going to say that, we're going to spend all the way up to the cap, but we have a lot of space and we're certainly not on the floor anymore. So it sounds like they're all really kind of galvanized now with the new direction of this group and team and the organization. So that kind of just transcends down to the fan base, right? You feel all that positivity. And I mean, just being the other day at the golf tournament, I mean, everyone's pumped. There's no weird sort of unknown feelings going into the air. Everybody's super optimistic. And that's all you could ask for going into training camp.
Because I can remember a few times covering the golf tournament and it just being like this quiet hum. Like
exactly.
You knew there was an outlying issues, but you didn't really discuss it just felt like there was a dark cloud.
I agree.
Yesterday was completely different. And I think that, they changed the venue. They went to Lock March. It just felt like a whole different kind of atmosphere, which leads me to a question. Oh, but how'd you play, by the way?
Not bad, not good though. I had a really cool, really good group of guys. It was Jeff, Mike, and Steve, great dudes, instruction guys. And they were really good. And I was terrible to start. Started to round out a little bit toward the end. Not that anybody here gives a shit about my golf game, but it was a great, Wally, it was a great day. The weather was pretty rough in the morning. There was a little rain, but it cleared out and raised a lot of money, and everybody had a good time.
When you played in the Sens golf tournament as a member of the Ottawa Senators, who was the worst golfer on the team?
Oh man, that's a great question. I'm trying to think back of guys that just had no business being out there, and there aren't too many.
Europeans.
The Euros don't typically play a lot. There are, of course,
tennis.
Some that play a ton. Alfie's basically scratch. Eric likes to play a lot, so it's not uncommon. But oftentimes a lot of times the Eastern European dudes, like the Czechs, the Slovaks. The Russians, they do not play golf. So they might show up for the dinner, but they don't grow up with it. Right. I mean,
I remember Marty
and all that.
Zdeno Chara. I think Anton Volchenkov, none of those guys wanted to play golf. They were just like,
and it's like, I get it. And if you haven't swung a club ever, I mean, it's foreign to you, right? Like it's not fun when you're out there and you're not playing very well. So it takes time.
And not when you're a hockey player, because it's not the same swing, so it completely messes you up. Like,
it's different, for sure.
Okay, so talked about positivity. We see more positivity now as the training camp rosters are released. This is where they put Team Alfie, Team Phillips, Team Neil. Like, never seen that in the past. We've seen Team Red, Team White, Team Black. Another step forward. And I saw Alfie this week. I'm trying to remember the days. And it might have been last week. Sorry. And remember we had Alfie in our first show, and I found out afterwards, Tim Stutzla wanted to meet Alfie. He watched the show and said, I'd like to really meet Alfie. And at the time, of course, there was no Alfie around. Well, Alfie's been at the rink. That's one thing people should need to know, that Alfie's been hanging out. 2, Alfie played pedal with, it's like that. It's the new thing that Alfie's brought over. It's like tennis, racquetball, all in one. He played with Stutzla, Eric Brandstrom, and Alfie's brother Henrik. They played, so they've actually met. They've had good conversation, and it's just good to see the icon that he is around the team. Or it just gives everybody a bigger boost. I know he doesn't officially have a role yet. I don't think that's going to happen until there's a sale, but we do see Daniel Alfredson being a member, if you will, of the Ottawa Senator group.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge when you have alumni walking around and they're involved with the team. And I'm not talking about guys like me. I'm talking about guys like Philly, Neeler, Alfie, the lifelong Senator players, of course. It speaks volumes. And I had a really good conversation with DJ and Pierre at the golf tournament just before we got out there. I just wanted to say hi to them. And DJ really emphasized the change. He wanted to change the culture around there. He wants guys to come to the rink. He's like, Meth, you want to bring your kids, come in for a meeting. I don't care. Obviously I would never do that, but he was extending those invitations out. And I mean, it goes a long way, man. Like when I was in Dallas, there were always veterans and alumni walking around, and it sends a message to the group, right? Like that in this organization, no matter where you end up afterwards, whether you're traded or you retire, you're always welcome back. And it creates a really good culture around the group, showing that the team is willing to take care of you. And it doesn't take much to do that, right? It's just bringing you into to a game, or bringing you in the alumni box, or a practice, or letting your kids come out and skate, maybe on a day off where the group's not around and you want to go to the rink. So it sounds kind of silly, but it goes a long way. And it's optics, right? If you're a current player and you're seeing all this stuff, it's huge.
Yes. I completely agree with you. So I've always remembered this, and people will probably complain, but John Muckler came in as GM, and the first thing he did was repaint the locker room. He put up signs of the Stanley Cup, and he changed the paint color in that locker room. I think they wanted, he couldn't match the perfect gold color. I think he painted it 3 times. He didn't, but he had to paint it 3 times. He put the logo on the carpet. He said, if you don't talk about winning the Stanley Cup, you're never going to get it. You're never going to reach it unless you look at it, you see it, you think about it, you dream of it. And he was adamant. He changed the culture. Oh, and by the way, they went to the Stanley Cup final as him as GM, right? He did exactly what he said he was going to do. That culture changed, and so did how the team performed on the ice.
Well,
I think it's huge.
Yes, and that's a great example, Wally. I mean, it pays when people within the organization and around you, your peers, believe in you and give you hope like that. And whether it's silly little messaging on the walls, right? Like little quotes, like in Columbus, right as I was leaving Columbus, they started doing that around the room. It was very bland initially, and it didn't feel warm. It didn't feel like you didn't have that winning kind of feeling when you were around the locker room. And then they started adding stuff and kind of sprucing the place up a little bit. And it makes a big difference because you're there every day and you're always around it. So as you mentioned, Wally, you walk by a couple pictures of the Stanley Cup, you see some cool pictures of Daniel Alfredsson or Chris Phillips and some stats and pictures of them winning games. It creates a little bit of pride in that room as well. So anyway, I don't want to go on a long rant about this, but it's very true. I've been through it. It resonates with the players, and they're doing a really good job in Ottawa. They're turning it around. It started when I was there. This is nothing new. They've made big improvements in the locker room.
It is new. It is.
What do you mean it's
new?
What's new?
There was never any pictures of Alfie up on the wall. They were
there
all gone.
were.
No,
when I was in Ottawa. When I was in Ottawa, okay, well, I don't know. Maybe they took them down afterwards, but when I was there,
they did.
And I'm not just talking about a Daniel Alfredsson picture. I'm talking about expanding the back room, making a big lounge with couches and a TV.
But if you can't have pictures up of the icon of Daniel Alfredsson around it's just
okay. Well, you're nitpicking one thing. I realize it's a big one, but
it's
all
that.
But
that was the culture. That's what I'm trying to point out. That's the culture.
Okay. Well, from all I'm saying is, when I first got to Ottawa, the room was about 6 by 12, where the lounge area was, with a tiny little European coffee table, round table with 3 chairs. To them blowing out the back room with couches. And, when you do that, all of a sudden players are hanging around the rink longer. They're hanging out after practice. They're having milk or shakes or protein shakes and food. Anyway, I'm repeating myself.
They
now,
added a shooting room. They made the workout room bigger.
That's what I was kind of getting towards. But to your point, it's nice that they've added and bringing back in these vets. I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Okay. So I got 2 quick things before we get to Parker Kelly, who's our guest in today's show. One, the defensive pairings right now. Before we get excited about day one defensive pairings, let's not get too caught up in them being together. Okay.
I agree.
As you are aware. So it's Shabbat Zub, Sanderson, Hamonic, and then Brandstrom and Holden. Zaitsev is in that group too. So I think Nikita Zaitsev, it wouldn't shock me if he's in the top 6 to start the season. I'm just telling you right now. So I think he's been skating all summer. I'm not sure how he's going to look in camp, but I just get the feeling that he might be in the top 6 when training camp starts.
Well, and we know DJ likes him. He works really hard. I'll give him that. Yeah.
You can turn your game around. You can turn it around.
I spoke to a few guys yesterday, and the word was that on Wednesday. And the word, was it Wednesday or Tuesday? The tournament. It was on Tuesday. Sorry. I spoke to guys at the tournament. I'll say that.
Yeah. Just go with
that. And we had a good conversation about, I was getting a little nosy. I was just curious as to who was going to be skating with who. And it sounds like Shabbat will be playing with Zub, at least to start. I could be wrong. They flip-flop. And then it looks like you're looking at Sanderson and probably Hamonic on the second pairing. So you're right. Where does Zaitsev fit into this? Where does Nick Holden fit into this? I mean, and then you've got Brandstrom and company as well. I don't know, man. There's healthy competition. Excuse me. There's healthy competition on the back end for that last pairing, those 2 spots. I don't know how you scratch Nick Holden. Like, he was, to me at least, and I don't know the analytics, but he seemed fairly consistent throughout a lot of the season last year, and you could play him up and down the lineup a little bit on that back end. But then you've got a dogfight between guys like Zaitsev, Brandstrom, and all the others. I don't know, Wally. I really think that you're going to look, if Sanderson comes out strong, great. He'll be with Hamonic. You've got your top 4 set. There's no question there anymore. Now it's, Hamonic's contract. Do you move that? Do you just send him down to the American League and save a little money there on cap space?
Zaitsev. You mean Zaitsev?
Yeah, with Zaitsev, correct.
Sorry, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. I need to see them play. Maybe Zaitsev just, the light bulbs go off and he figures it out and he's a great player in camp and things settle. I don't know.
That's the only, I think we might be pleasantly surprised with the way Nikita Zaitsev plays it.
Yeah. Is that so? Do you have like some insider info there, Wally?
I do not.
You've been watching? I know you lurk. You're a bit of a rink lurker. So you watch them,
I just go to see if you're at the rink that day is all I'm trying to do. Is I saw him skate this summer. It was July. Like he was still here. He was working his butt off, skating with Shelly Kettles. I just know that he's putting the effort in. So that's why I think, he didn't just accidentally become an NHL player and play whatever amount of games.
I agree. Sure.
Right. So that's why I think. Anyway,
and Shelly Kettles is awesome, by the way. You connected me with her, and now she's helping me out with Jack, my son. Incredible skating coach, Shelly Kettles.
We can talk all day about her. So we got to move on because I got lots to talk about.
Good point.
We're going to get to the defense never rests. And I'm shocked that you didn't announce your retirement on Tuesday because it seemed like, I guess it was Wednesday. It seemed like every great defenseman who played in your era did. So that's brought to you by BEI, Bonisher Excavating Inc., helping to shape the Ottawa Valley. Go to bonisherexcavating.com or call them 613-432-1120. bonisherexcavating.com, helping to shape the Ottawa Valley. Okay. Zdeno Chara, the big man himself, 1,680 games, announced his retirement. Norris Trophy winner. PK Subban, he announced his retirement after 834 games. Many people surprised by that. And Keith Yandel, 1,109 games, member of the 2005 draft. Were you surprised by any of these three?
Subban. Chara was a matter of time. I still think he could probably play. I know he could still play on a team and be effective, but at some point, hockey's, as you know, Wally, it's very time consuming. And eventually, your wife will only take so much. And that's like Tom Brady. I don't know how he's getting away with it, but eventually you want to spend time with your family. Right. And for those people that haven't really been around the game very much, any pro sport is insanely time consuming. It's a year-round thing, including the training in the off season. I know every job's very time consuming, but I'm talking about all the travel involved as well, all the time away from home. So I can understand Chara backing away. Yandel, no, same thing. And Yandel's play had regressed tenfold, in my opinion. And that's with all due respect. I think a lot of him playing toward the end there was probably because of the Iron Man streak. And there was a lot of pressure there to have him play. That might be a hot take. I don't think it is. And then with Subban, his play's kind of gone down a little bit as well. That typically happens with players, but I still surprised because I know he works really hard. He trains hard. I thought, he'd squeeze out a couple more seasons. Just my take.
I'm surprised too. Like I thought for sure, but I feel like it's been a drastic drop if I'm being completely honest.
Oh no, it has been.
And I know he's got the ESPN deal probably lined up where it's going to pay him several million. So you're 33. You got the rest of your life to go figure it out. You got plenty of money. Why not do it? Like, I good for him.
Well, you can bet.
Congrats to everybody.
You can bet if that man is retiring at his age right now, he's got something lined up moving forward, right? Yeah. So, and we know it's media because he's fantastic on TV. He's very outspoken. It's good for the game. So I understand. I get it. But I will say this, and everybody always told me this when I was playing, particularly the vets, play as long as you can, because once you retire, depending on the situation, of course, I mean, in some cases it's injuries like myself, I was forced out, but to willingly retire at a young age could be very hard on you mentally, a year or two down the road where you might have a little bit of regret. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Here's my only question on that then though. Is it tough to be forced to retire, not due to injury, but due to the fact that maybe nobody wants you to play?
Hardest thing to do is to be, I might be wrong, and this is subjective, of course, but from what I've heard, the hardest thing is being forced out and not being able to retire on your own terms. I dealt with it. It was very difficult for me. Like mentally, those first, we talk about mental health all the time. I figured it out. I had to do a lot of it on my own and of course with my wife, but it was very hard on me and the family for a good year or so until I kind of settled and came to terms with it. But it's something that, and I believe there was another player. There was a good article I saw on Twitter. It was another Canadian athlete, an Olympian. I'm forgetting what sport she was in, but she talked about how hard it was for her to just kind of call it quits all of a sudden and then figure out what her identity is next. And that's half the battle. It's like, what do I do now? I mean, your whole life you've been associated with, whatever sport you were playing. Now all of a sudden you lose that identity that was essentially kind of intertwined with you, and you have to figure it out. And it's hard because no one cares anymore. Like when you're done, like you're those old organizations they used to play with, like you're gone, like see you later. And you're left on your own to figure it out and pick up the pieces. Exactly.
Yeah, I totally
Oh,
agree.
you
Now, but look,
understand. You get it
yeah,
too.
same. Absolutely. But
Yeah.
luckily for you, you get to work with me now. So really, it's
Oh,
been quite a
joking aside,
bonus.
Wally, it's been like, but that's been my saving grace, right? I can come on here and shoot the shit with you. And sometimes I kind of hate your guts, but at the end of the day, I love you for it. And that's why we have such great chemistry.
Well, all the time I just like you, so feelings mutual. All right. Well, speaking of someone we do like quite a bit, and you've been high on him for I want to say all of last season. Parker Kelly played 41 games last year. You were in his corner for all of them. So he's coming up in the show. That is brought to you by Ridge Rock Brewery. Go to ridgerockbrewco.ca. 15% off. Use the Wham Show coupon code. Wham Show. Put that in. Get 15% off. Get home delivery. Parker Kelly coming up right after this. The man that needs no introduction, who's garnered tons of attention when the coach and the GM is talking about him all summer long. Parker Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Have you heard, by the way, the comments from the coach and the GM about the excitement level they have for you to be a fixture on this team this year?
No, I mean, I try to stay off social media and stuff, but usually my buddies are online or brother, mom, and dad, so they're always checking it out. But so I kind of hear, but mostly I try to stay off that and not to read too much into it.
You've got to be pretty excited though for this year.
Yeah, this is hopefully going to be a big year for me. I obviously want to play in the NHL full time, and just looking really forward to building off the good end of the season last year.
Yeah. So Parker, you mentioned the good finish. Sorry, Wally, you mentioned the good finish there toward the end of the season. Obviously a ton of games that you got under your belt now. Yeah. What changes did you have to make this summer? Like, was there anything specific that you thought you wanted to address, whether it be in the training room, or on the ice? Was there anything specific?
Yeah. I've kind of always got the same, kind of in the eggs. I mean, you got to get stronger and, work on your wall play and stuff. So that was kind of a big thing for me is obviously I got to keep working on my hands and, I want to be more skilled and stuff, but the big things for me is always my bread and butter and just getting stronger into the gym and making sure I'm strong on the wall. So those are kind of two areas that I just focused on this year. And hopefully, I feel good in myself and I think I had a good summer.
Right on.
You talk about your hands. You got a great finish, as you talked about, like down the stretch, playing on that fourth line. So, I mean, you don't really need to work on your hands, do you?
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm the most skilled guy naturally, but I do think I have a decent shot. But yeah, obviously it was a good last half of the year for me, and playing with Wally and Gambo was a really good fit for me. And I can't thank those guys enough for all the help and support and kind of taking me under their wing. So it was a great fit for me, and I really enjoyed playing with those guys.
Austin Watson can be intimidating. I don't know what he's like if he's your teammate, but was there anybody like that was intimidating when you first started playing in the NHL?
Oh, no, I think my first big real wow, this guy's intimidating. I think we played Tampa Bay and just seeing Hedman on the ice for the first time, he was so much bigger than on the TV. And it was pretty crazy to see how big his stick was and just to see how well he used it. And that was pretty intimidating, just trying to get the puck into the ozone and go against that guy. It was pretty crazy.
Was that sort of for me, at least, Parker, getting into the NHL, the hardest thing for me was just getting past that starstruck thing and intimidation with some of the tough guys around the league. I had a hard time with that adjustment. It took a couple of years. What was that for you? Was that something that you were very aware of coming into the NHL and trying to kind of break down those barriers and just know that you belong?
Yeah, obviously I love hockey and, growing up and watching players play. And, for me, I haven't got the chance yet, but if I ever got the chance to play against Sid, that's kind of my idol, I guess. And even I guess Connor McDavid too, but just playing guys like Matthews and, Marchands and guys like that who I really watched growing up and still watch now. It's kind of tough, the first shift every time, let's say I'm on the ice and we're getting hemmed in and they're on the ice. You're not thinking about it, but you know what I mean? After you get these guys are good, you know what I mean? But
so then if you had an opportunity, so here's a little trivia / test.
Okay.
Sid's coming around the net in your defensive zone, and you have an opportunity. I've said this before to other guests, to fold him into a lawn chair. would you do it or would you back off a little bit?
Well, I think the player that I am, like, I'm not really scared to like hit big names. You know what I mean? So I'd hopefully
Good
try
answer.
to like a good clean hit on Sid, but I'd
Fair.
probably know like someone's coming. You know what I mean? So, but I'm not the type of guy to like shy away from physicality or just because it's this person or that person. Like, I'm gonna try and finish my checks all the time.
Good answer.
What are your thoughts then on making big hits and expecting to have to fight when they're clean?
Yeah, obviously, sometimes I get in a good collision or whatnot, and I wouldn't say I'm a guy who's expected to fight, but obviously I have to stand up for myself and stand up for my teammates. So I don't think I have an issue dropping the gloves. Obviously, I do have to pick my battles, though. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be smart for me to fight a guy who's 6'4", has a lot of fighting experience. You know what I mean? So
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'd like to pick my battles, and it's not going to do me or the team any good if I'm kind of swinging the momentum the wrong way. So I like to pick my battles, and the coaches are pretty good about it, and also my teammates, they understand. So it makes it a lot easier to kind of not think about that stuff too much.
You've already got a nice list though, right? Like Wally was sending me some of the info, and I mean, you've already, like, in your short time playing in the National Hockey League, you've already laid out some pretty good players. I mean, Scheifele, Connor Murphy, Taylor Hall, the list goes on. And a couple of them, I think the Taylor Hall hit was the one where maybe Lazar tried jumping you and you're looking around, dropping your gloves for anybody. And that's that awareness, right? And I think that's something that you develop, and then you develop a reputation, and then I think it's more amplified. So I guess, is that something that you work on at all? I mean, I'm not saying you're sitting there with your gloves on in the basement working on fighting all summer, but is that something that you're kind of working away at a little with boxing or anything in particular?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say like I've gone into a boxing class in the summer, but I think it's more trial by error. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you guys remember, like, preseason last year, like, I kind of took a run at Pizzetta and was just going to try and chirp him after the hit. And, I probably should have been ready, and what happened. It was whatever. But so that's like, I learned from it. You know what I mean? So now after like the Hall hit, I kind of looked around as soon as I hit him, like Hall was right there. And then I turned around, Lazar was right there too. But so just like kind of trial by error, but I know I'm probably not going to be the guys who, knocking guys out, but hopefully I can just stand in my own and protect myself. So I've got some good tips from like Dono, and there's actually a guy who comes around and boxes, like he would be at development camps. I can't remember his name right now, but he was pretty good, like just showing little things. And then obviously Bellsy, like David Bell in the American League, like he's pretty good. He fought a lot. So and he knows how to protect himself. So, and he understands, like, I'm not a guy who's going to swing for the fences. Like, it's more self-defense. So
100%.
That type of stuff's good to hear and learn, and just to kind of like in the back of your mind for when it happens. Hopefully you got some idea of what you're doing.
Good call.
It's a perfect time. I'm going to get to your goal scoring, and that's going to help me lead into Pearls of Wisdom, brought to you by BEI, Bonnechere Excavating Inc., helping to shape the Ottawa Valley. Go to Bonnechere Excavating to help with all your landscaping needs. Competitive pricing, 432-1120, BonnechereExcavating.com. They are helping to shape the Ottawa Valley. Here we go. Pearls of Wisdom. 188. That's your career WHL points with the Prince Albert Raiders. That's the most by a Raider since 2015-16, plus 19 in the 2019 WHL playoffs. That was the league leader at the time. We'll mention that you did win the WHL championship. 18.1 hits per 60 minutes in 2021. That would put you third in the National Hockey League, a minimum 40 games played. And 8, you're one of 8 Senators to score a goal in their NHL debut. Of course, that was May 12, 2021 against Freddie Anderson. I want you to explain this goal to me and describe it how you saw it. One, because you need a video review. There's nobody in the stand, so it's quiet. It just, I'm sure it's not the way you wanted it, but it went in. Take me through this goal.
Yeah, crazy first game. Obviously with the COVID and stuff, it was obviously disappointing that, my family and friends couldn't be there. But yeah, it was just a play. I got on, and I think I was with Artem Anisimov and Timmy on for the line. And yeah, I just got the puck kind of in the corner, and I just remember kind of getting pushed, and somehow I fell over, and it looked like a bad hit, but I got up and I like stepped on my stick and was like just kind of looking where the play was, and the puck kind of came right off the end wall right to me. And I remember like just trying to get it up as high as I could, and I actually didn't get it off the ice at all. And it went off Freddie's foot, and then I could kind of see from my angle that the puck was in like the back of the net, kind of through like the mesh on the side. But I didn't have an idea, so I just kind of thought that I'd throw my hands up in the air and see what happened. And I actually looked at the ref like right in the eye, and he had his arm over for a goal. So I was like, oh my god, like I guess it kind of went in. And then the whole video review thing was just fun, and seeing like the suspense and feeling it, that was awesome. So something I'll never forget.
It doesn't matter. I know you're an Alberta boy, but to do it against the Leafs when it's the big rival of the Ottawa Senators. In fact, you played your first 3 games in the NHL against Toronto. Did it matter to score it against the Leafs?
You know, obviously, I think my grandpa's and my uncle's favorite team growing up were the Leafs. Like, they were big Leafs fans, and then obviously most of them are now Oiler fans. So it wasn't that big, but I guess for me, like looking back, like my a cool thing for me is like my first kind of goal. The Sens did a really nice thing for me. They got like the frame and my stick and my pucker in there, and on the ice you can see like Marner, Matthews, Riley, and Anderson. So like to look back on that is like, it's pretty cool. I guess it was just luck that I was out there against them, and it's kind of all luck, but something I can look back on and be pretty proud of.
Someday in your career or at the end, you should get them to sign that.
Yeah, I was actually thinking, like, I know like when Matthews had his first 3 or 4 goals in the NHL that night, he got Craig to like sign a stick. So
yeah,
maybe something like that down the road when I get a little bit more courage.
Is that your favorite goal? I look back at the one you scored. You pick your spots here. Your last goal is against Carey Price. You blow down the wing and then blow it by him. And I'm just curious which one is your favorite of all the goals that you've scored? Yeah,
I think for me, obviously the first one's special, but to score in front of like a sold out building and like Sens Habs like rivalry and on Carey Price, and just the way that kind of the goal started with like Wally like kind of sauced it in the air and me being able to knock it down and going to 2-on-1 with Gamby, and to have like an actual like shot, you know what I mean? Like my first NHL goal was like, I wouldn't say like a full on NHL shot, you know what I mean? Where this one I kind of had a chance to like let her buck and ended up going by Pricer. And yeah, it was pretty cool to see and to feel the energy and to look back on.
And what did Austin Watson have to say to you?
I don't remember what he said. He was probably just like, good goal or whatever, but looking back on the video, I do realize that he kissed me on the side of the head. So just another, I guess, video of him showing his support for me and us as a line together. So it was awesome.
You depends on how this all plays out, as you know. Could have Gambrell as your centerman. Mark Kastelik has also been mentioned. He's your, if I understand correctly, your roommate in the A, and he's also one of your line mates at one point. Would that be an exciting thing for you two to play together?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Cassie was drafted a little bit later, and I've kind of already been in the organization, but just playing against him in junior and you know, seeing that he was going to be a force kind of towards the end of his career in the Western League, and then seeing him get drafted, and then getting the chance to live with him last year was pretty neat to see like how well he takes care of himself, and such a good pro, and to see like how hard he works at his game and to keep his body in shape is pretty inspiring. And it's I mean, it's kind of feeding off me, you know. I see what he does and I try to do some of the things that he does, but he's kind of a freak of nature. He's a really big boy, but you know, he can move well, and hopefully one day, if you know, when things happen, if we can play again together, and that'd be awesome. But yeah, as of right now, we're just working hard and trying to make it together, I guess.
So you are, well, I'm going to call you a pest for lack of a better term. And I mean that endearingly. Thank you. Been players that you've played against that you've, I don't know, hated is the word, but end up being teammates, or they've joined Belleville at one point? Like, is there any of those guys that you've run into? And you're like, he's not so bad.
I guess funny enough, like we were playing Calgary in the Western League, and I took a run at Casty and kind of blindsided him, and we ended up fighting in junior, and just seeing him get drafted, and I wouldn't say he beat the wheels off me, but he could have. I kind of turtled after he got his right arm loose, but just like talking about that and like saying like, yeah, he's actually a really nice guy. Like, no wonder he could have beat me up though. Like, he's so strong. And yeah, it was actually pretty funny the first time we met. So yeah.
Who brought the fight up first?
Well, it was probably an outside source, but I think the way it started was like, yeah, Cash, remember the time I beat the wheels off you in the Western League? And then he kind of like perked up, like, you didn't do that. And so, yeah, we just kind of joke about it. And I always say I beat him, but I know and he knows that he probably would have won the fight. So, yeah, it's pretty funny.
That's pretty good. Are you ultra competitive in everything you do? Is there anything that you can be okay with losing at?
The right answer is probably no. I know just a couple other things like cards. Playing at cards, I get very competitive, but I'm okay to lose at cards because I know I don't have the best strategies. But everything in my life is I'm very competitive at. My mom kind of calls it like the Ricky Bobby syndrome. If you're not first, you're last. So that's kind of the way it's been for me growing up. Sometimes it hurts me, sometimes it doesn't. So yeah.
It's do you have so what's your favorite thing to do outside of hockey that you're competitive at?
Golf. That's like my big thing. It's kind of funny. All my buddies back home, like we golf a lot, obviously. And I've also my house back home in Camrose is on the course. So I've been golfing a long time and my buddies haven't been golfing as long as I'd say as me, but they're getting better. And for the longest time, for about like 4 summers in a row, I would always like bet them like, not one of you is going to beat me this summer. You know what I mean? And so I had a good streak, like 4 or 5 summers in a row of them beating me. And now every summer, one person seems to beat me. So I think there's only 2 of my buddies left who haven't beat me, but yeah, it'll be funny if they listen to this. But yeah, so every time I've kind of lost, I've been pretty sour after the course and walking home and stuff. So yeah, it's been funny.
Very good. There's lots of talk about this season. I'm sure you're aware. You've skated probably now with Giroux and DeBrincat and Cam Talbot. Like, what's the feeling for you as you see this season now shaping up and the players that have now been assembled here?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting for sure. And, you know, to see kind of the buzz around the city and then feel it, it's obviously exciting. And, you know, it should be a good start for us this year, hopefully. And as long as everyone can kind of stay healthy, I think I really like our chances of getting in the playoffs this year. And that's something we're all wanting and hoping for. So I think the big thing for us is we just got to have a good start this season and get off on the right foot.
So Parker, the more important question though, you've played 41 games last year. Are you still technically a rookie? Do you have to do a rookie dinner? Are you still picking up pucks after practice? What's going on there?
Yeah.
Because you're right on the cusp. That
Yeah.
40 game mark is usually a determining factor.
Yeah. So I think maybe if you looked at like the NHL website, they might not have me like as a rookie. Like I couldn't win the Calder this year, but I'm definitely still picking up pucks. And
Oh, you are?
I have to do. I didn't get to do the rookie dinner last year, so I'll have to do that this year. So I'm still a rookie regarding what the NHL site says.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have so I meant to ask Meth the same thing. Meth has now stepped up his suit game. It took him to after his NHL career to finally figure out how to wear some clothing. I'm just curious how many you have. Do you have like game A suits? How do you break it down?
Yeah, so I got every year I kind of have like I'd say like 4 or 5 suits that I have that I like really love. And then if I'm like changing it up or whatever, maybe I'll go like Lululemon pants and like a dress shirt and a tie and then just a pea coat over top, you know what I mean?
Smart.
But it's kind of tough. Like when I'm in junior, like I still had a lot of growing to do. So like I have a lot of suits at home, but like a lot of them have kind of grown out of. So the last like 2-3 years, like I haven't grown that much, you know what I mean? So I can still kind of recycle them. So I'd say I have about a good 4 or 5 suits that I wear, and then a couple different options with the Lululemon pants and stuff. So, but I'm definitely like pretty superstitious. Like if I have a good game or the team wins, like I'll keep the same suit going, you know what I mean? And then whenever that kind of falls off or whatever happens, then it's time for a switch up. But I also do like my dress socks. I'd probably have way more dress socks than I do for suits. So that's kind of my thing as well.
Dress socks are important. I think it's a forgotten accessory.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, Matt, you're not.
I mean, I don't know how to contribute on this. All I would say is, like Parker, my only advice, save your money. Don't buy too many suits like some of the European dudes do. Like when I would play with a Carlson and some of those guys, and they'd chirp my suit sometimes.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
and then at the end of the day, you're finished playing and you've got like, 40 suits. You barely wear any of them and they're just sitting there. I got to the point where I would buy like 1 or 2 a year, depending on how old they will look, of course. And then I would just wear that because it's a complete waste of money. And you're dropping anywhere from $1,000 to 2,000 on a suit. That's insane.
Oh yeah. Especially if you're getting like, I don't know what some of these guys are getting, like brand name suits.
Oh yeah. The designer suits. Do not do that. Don't fall into that trap. Guess what? You're playing in Ottawa. You're going to be wearing an overcoat half the winter anyway, right?
Exactly.
Like no one's going to see what you're wearing when you're walking into the Canadian Tire Center in February. So who gives a shit? Just keep doing what you're doing and don't fall for the peer pressure.
No, never. But yeah, it's funny. Like I'll come in with like, I don't know. I got this like tan suit that's like, kind of looks like I'm wearing khakis, you know what I mean? And like, remember the first time I wore it last year? Like, I think Timmy was right beside me in the stall. He goes, "Holy cow, Kels, what kind of suit is that?" And just like,
like,
here we go.
The Europeans always have like the best suits though. Like they drop the most on them. They're skin tight. And if you have any leeway around your ankle, they're all over you. They just make fun of your suit.
And
so
like,
I get it.
How do they like, where do they get these designs from? Like Moore's just has a straight like blue, brown, red, you know what I mean? Like where can I find a checkered suit?
Fair enough. You know what? If you're playing in the NHL and you're still buying suits at Moore's, good for you. I applaud you.
I guess I probably just like, I don't know, suicide comment there by saying I get my suits at Moore's.
I got a guy that does custom suits cheap. Would you be okay if the NHL did away with that dress code?
I'd probably, for me personally, it's probably better that I have to wear a suit to the game. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't say like I'd have the best like street clothes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a pretty like plain Jane guy, so probably my suits for me, I'd probably still end up just wearing a suit to the rink anyways. But I know there's a lot of guys who like love to like show off their streetwear and stuff, but that's really not like my I guess forte. So I'm more of just like a hat, hoodie, jeans or sweatpants type of guy.
Good man.
Yeah.
I meant to go back when you scored your first goal. You were undrafted, and it took you 5 years roughly to play your first NHL game after signing with Ottawa. What did you think of? I know things are going on so quickly, but when did you think of that? You having gone through that struggle, if you will, to get to the NHL in that moment, or did you?
Yeah, I think obviously like after the draft passed and stuff, and like I think I only had like one other team who was wanting to invite me to their dev camp. So with my agent, like he's like, I think Ottawa's a good fit for you. So obviously going to Ottawa, and I had zero expectations, you know what I mean? Like absolutely zero, and just tried to go in and work hard. And luckily, you know, things worked out and they liked me here, and I kept playing well every time and every opportunity I got. And I never really would say like, I thought like, yeah, like this is going to be a grind to get to the NHL. I thought more just keep doing it, you know, head down, eyebrows down, and good things will happen. And I think that's kind of a testament to how I was raised, and that kind of good things happen to good people, and always treat people with respects and just always work hard. So I never really thought too much about it, but I always wanted to get to the NHL, and I always knew how hard I had to work to get to the NHL, because obviously, you know, not being drafted, not being a first rounder, it's going to be a little bit different road for me.
So what was that skate like when you have to go out by yourself at the beginning?
A little nerve wracking. Obviously you don't want to do the fall and slip on a puck. So kind of just making sure you're a couple cautious laps and wait for the boys to get out there. But it was fun. It was also weird though. Like there was no fans, you know what I mean? So like, felt like
takes away from it.
Building. Yeah. So.
One of the things I've noticed about, I'll say tough guys in general, they're fairly down to earth and very quiet, or very well respectful, and just like you. Is it tough to play on the edge and still be that kind of guy off the ice?
For me, I'd say like, obviously, like as I've gotten more comfortable here, like off the ice, like, and, you know, getting to know more of the guys, it's kind of been easy for me to be myself, you know. And obviously when you come up and you're called up, like you're kind of a little shy. You're more like, wow, like this is the NHL. And for me, the guys were great here and welcomed me. And obviously, like I've been playing with them, like I played with Nori, and for me in the minors and stuff. So like they were there to help me. And obviously, like being in the organization, like Brady and Wally and stuff like that, like they were all great to me. And coming up and being like a little shy, now I can be a little bit more myself. And I think it's easier just to kind of I have a big personality, I guess I'd say. And it's starting to come a little bit more natural, but yeah, it's been fun to get to know guys and to share stories and get to know them for sure.
Parker, like your style, and I hate pigeonholing a player to like a style of play, like a pest, because obviously you're more than that, but players have to usually evolve, find their games to progress out of junior and find a different role, right? That's very typical. Brandon Prest scored goals with me when I played with him in London and turned into a fighter. Obviously, you're a lot more skilled than he is, so I'm not saying you're a fighter. Where did that pest and that hard-nosed play come from? Was that something that was always with you as a kid in minor hockey? Like, do you have siblings? Were you always fighting with a brother or something? Like, where does that come from?
Yeah, it's kind of a long story, but so growing up, like Camrose, like small town, we had a really good group. Like the 99 group in Camrose was like the best, growing up. We always won championships. And then, when we were in Adam, like before Pee Wee, when we were like hitting full on, you know what I mean? Like the parent coaches, they did a really good job with like teaching us how to hit, you know what I mean? Like we played hard hockey, and that carried on all the way up to like Bantam. So now Pee Wee was hitting, and then like Bantam's hitting, and like we would just run over teams, you know what I mean? Like small towns, and then we're playing the big city kids, you know what I mean? And they weren't too big with the physical game, and that's how we would win, you know what I mean? Like we just would run over teams. So that had kind of always been ingrained in me, like being able to hit and being a smaller guy, like learning how to hit bigger people, you know what I mean? So then coming into junior, I had a pretty good 16-year-old year and like was just really happy to be on the team. And then the second half was really good. And then leading into my 17-year-old year, I had big expectations. I thought I was going to get drafted, you know what I mean? And then the first like 15 games, like I remember like getting called into the office with my coach, Mark Habscheid, and he's like, things aren't going well. Like, I'm going to tell you how you need to play to get to the NHL. He's like, you're kind of in between right now. You know what I mean? So he's like, you're not playing well enough to be like in the top 6. You know what I mean? Like, and to be quite frankly, like he was right. And he's like, you're probably not going to be a top player in the NHL, like top 6 players. So this is how you're going to get to the NHL. He's like, you're going to be a straight line forward. You're going to hit, you're going to do all the things. You're going to be the work pail guy. Okay. So I just kind of trusted him. And it was almost one of the most influential parts of my career, just like listening to Mark and like seeing what he had to say and just trusting him the whole like next 3-4 years of junior. So I owe a lot to him, and I really thank him a lot and always say thanks for helping me get to the NHL. So that's kind of my story and like how it all played out. But thanks to Mark, my game kind of always translated to the next level. You know what I mean? Like I never really had to change my game. So I owe a lot of that to Mark.
And that's classy of you to shout him out like that. And I think more importantly, a lot of guys get told what to do, right? In junior hockey, those transition years, and it's hard. Yeah. Like you got to give yourself credit too. Like you're willing to get a little dirtier, change your game, completely reinvent yourself. So not an easy thing to do. And I guess there you go. You're finally reaping those rewards.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I mean, of course it was tough. Like in Bantam, I had a lot of goals and a lot of points and stuff, but I was never that kid growing up. You know what I mean? Like I was never leading the league 150 points, 100 points, you know what I mean? 30 games. Like that was never me. I was just more did the little things, you know what I mean? And kind of was always a penalty killer. And once I got to junior, my role expanded as I got older, you know what I mean? But I just really look back and like, that's like probably the most influential thing is when he said, this is what you're going to do. You're going to be straight line, hardworking, you're going to hit, you're going to go to the net, you know what I mean? You're going to be F1 all the time. And then that kind of just like bloomed me into, I guess, what I am now.
So I'd like to go back then to your first meeting with Mark, because I'm going to guess you didn't think 3 or 4 years later that you two would be on the same page.
Oh yeah, of course. And like, sorry, are you talking about Habscheid or?
Yeah. So when you first met Mark Habscheid, did he not look past you?
Yeah, of course. So like he's probably not going to be happy that I'm telling this story, but I was 15 and I got to leave school early and go watch the Raiders play the Oil Kings at Rexall Place. And I remember getting there and being so excited. And I got to walk down and meet Mark and Dave Manson, who were like the head and assistant coach at the time. And Dave was pretty excited to see me, like shook my hand, took me in, and like took me right into like Mark's office after warmups. And I remember being like, "Hey, I'm Parker Kelly. Nice to meet you." And then like looking back now that I'm like 17, 18, 19, he's like, "You know, that first time you came down to Rexall, I thought you were the stick boy." And I was like, "Oh my God, like that's so funny." Like who knew that like we ended up have like this kind of a relationship, and like him pretty much teach me like the game of hockey kind of all over again. And you know, I owe a lot to him, but that's kind of our first like encounter with me and Mark. He's thought I was a stick boy.
He did later apologize. I have heard the clip of him apologizing that he didn't know who you were at the time and how he treated you. So yeah, that's good. So now what's it been like in these skates for you guys? I'm trying to explain to people who haven't been out to see you guys skate around the energy level that I feel is on the ice with this group. And I've covered the team for 25 years. I've never seen a group, and maybe it's because of the age of most of you, a group that's as excited to start a season like this group is.
Yeah, you could definitely feel it. You definitely see it at practices. Everyone just kind of has a chip on their shoulder, I think. And we're ready to win. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't say it's been the best years for the Ottawa Senators, but I think for us as players and the fan base as well, I think it's our time now, and we really want to show. And there's some expectations that we all have been working hard in the summer for. And, you know, I think that's going to translate, and hopefully we get off to a good start this year. And the biggest thing will be us playing meaningful games coming down the stretch at the end of the year. So that's going to be an awesome feeling and an awesome way to get going. And it should be exciting.
DJ Smith is known to be quick-witted or sarcastic, if you will. How many games did it take you before you chirped him?
I still haven't chirped him yet. Yeah, maybe a couple more years, but yeah, I probably should just stay in my lane till at least 100 games before I even think of doing something like that.
Just wait till next season. You're on your one-way deal.
Yeah.
Has there been like, what is the talk in the room this summer or on the ice? Like, do you guys chat much about it, or is it just kind of understood of the way this season should play out for you guys, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, I think like you can like, you know, the boys, everyone's kind of thinking the same thing. Like we'll kind of talk about, you know, playoffs and stuff like that. And for right now, I don't think we're looking too far ahead. You know what I mean? The first thing is for us just to have a good start. And, you know, I think the boys all know what we have to do to succeed. And it's just about, you know, staying healthy, being hard on the puck every game, and just playing the right game every day and being hard to play against.
A couple of questions before I let you go, and maybe Meth has some. I guess let him ask one or two. Is what do you like to do in the dead middle of winter when you're in Ottawa?
Well, once like playing in PA, like obviously it's kind of the same, like pretty cold and stuff. So I kind of got into video games. Now that I'm older, I've kind of turned that down, you know what I mean? But I'm a pretty big like movie guy. I love watching Netflix and stuff. And I'll always like watch hockey and stuff like that too. But probably like the right answer would probably be like video games.
What are you playing?
I haven't played video games in like a year, but the last game I finished was I was back on Fortnite and the NHL like 2022 or whatever it was. But I don't know. Some of the boys today we were talking about there's a new like Call of Duty game coming out in November or whatever. But
soon. Yeah, in a couple. Actually, I think next week.
Yeah, maybe that game will get the courage in me to dust off the controllers and get back into it.
Do you have, while you're watching Netflix, a favorite snack, like a cheat snack?
Yeah, I love ice cream. That's been my new thing, and probably for the last like year, just like ice cream, either a Haagen-Dazs bar or like a Haagen-Dazs mini tub. That's kind of when it gets crazy if we're watching a long movie. But
do they still have
usually,
it after? Is there still ice cream after pregame meals on the road?
Yeah, it's back now. Yeah. So
Oh, they brought.
yeah, I'm a solid, like, I love my sweets. Like, it's probably bad for me, but I'm kind of lucky. Like, I can kind of get away with like eating, you know what I mean? Like, have a high metabolism or whatever, so I can kind of get away with it. But I do love a good like cookie and ice cream on the road, like before, like with the pregame meals. But Ottawa here, like our chef, he makes like the best cookies for me. All the like rinks and like hotels that I experienced last year, like Ottawa's cookies are the best.
Yeah, they have them under the heat lamp, those big chocolate chip ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Those are they're solid. It's basically a huge piece of cake that you're eating.
And like they leave them like a little raw almost. Like that's a good cookie. Like an undercooked cookie is like the best. You can't
Totally
have it
agree.
like crispy and hard as a rock, you know?
Yep.
But,
It's very true. In fact, the long time ago, one of the GMs instilled a rule in the media lounge that we were only allowed to have one cookie each. Because everybody was taking them, and he didn't get to have a cookie.
Some of you media people don't need more than one cookie, Wally.
That may be. We don't have a high metabolism all the time. That's correct.
That's right.
I only stuck to I only took one. Parker, we're gonna let you go. But I appreciate you stopping by. We're excited for you this season, and based on what happened at the end of last year and how well you played, we think great things are in store for you this year for sure.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on, guys, and hopefully we'll see you guys around the rink or something and get a chance to meet you guys in person.
Sounds good, Parker. Thanks,
Mark
man.
will take you shopping.
Yeah, I guess we can just meet at Moore's or maybe even Value Village.
Wherever you want to go, brother. All right, deal.
See you, Parker.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks once again to Parker Kelly. Wish him all the best this season. Now time to welcome to the show, as always, Craig. I feel like
what's going on, guys?
You need an entrance. Like you know what? We should make you a song entrance.
I do love pageantry. That's one thing I do love. So, Matt, you got something?
Yeah.
I was going to say something, but I realized it's very inappropriate. So I'm just going to keep my mouth shut for the song entrance. Remember that little jingle I sent you guys last week?
Yeah, we should do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before I got something that Craig's, I think he's going to want to talk to us about, but one of the things I missed off the top, and that's training camp fitness testing. I know it's big for Meth. I was going to call him Shane Norris. Josh Norris was number 1, number 2, Mark Kastelik. So I'm a little bit surprised by Norris being number 1, only for the fact Nick Paul was always the guy, but good for Norris to come in ready. Yeah.
And I just wanted to mention this because Norris was no surprise. We know he's an animal in the gym and he works really hard, but Kastelik, like, listen, I've been pretty high on him throughout the summer. I still think he's going to take Gambrell's spot at that 4th line center. Listen, I saw this mutant at the golf course the other day and he made me feel small. Like, and I'm not just saying that to be funny. Like, and when I say mutant, by the way, I mean that as a direct compliment. Guys used to call me that in the AHL all the time. They call me mutant. Anyway, doesn't matter. Kastelik, he's my dark horse in this camp. I've always usually got one guy that I'm kind of leaning on to kind of make a little bit of a splash.
Sure.
I don't know where you stand, Wally, where you stand, Craig, but I've got him right now slotted in to take that spot and be an upset. I know they're going to cater to Gambrell a little bit, but I think Kastelik's going to shock a lot of people. He is a freak of nature.
Gambrell's the inside spot for sure. So I don't disagree with you. I liked his game when he came up. I think he's got plenty of upside and I look forward. He's going to be that guy, I think, but is it this year? I don't know.
But imagine a line of Kelly, Kastelik, who by the way, could beat the shit out of anybody on that team as well. And then Austin Watson on your right side. Like if I'm a defenseman, I don't want to go out on the ice against that group. Like it'd be a nightmare.
It's chaos.
Yeah, I love those guys, but if I'm a forward, I wouldn't hate being. But fair enough. Anyways, but
do you know how big would Parker Kelly play? And I know he doesn't back down from anybody.
You could unleash
but he would have 9 hits a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, and a quick shout out to Steve Lloyd, because we told Parker after the show how big of super fan Steve Lloyd is, because he caught on to Parker Kelly like 3 years ago when I was completely unaware of him. And Lloyd, he told me at one of the practices in training camp, he's like, watch that kid. he's going to be something special. So shout out to Lloydie. He was bang on there.
Fair enough.
Absolutely. Speaking of Parker Kelly, Zdeno Chara retiring. Wally, you asked a question in the group chat the other day that got us going a little bit. So we thought we'd bring it here. And that was kind of who are the best Sens hitters of all time, career or like all time franchise best hitters. And we've turned it into a little something that you named Mount Crushmore. So I've asked for you each to give me your 4.
Okay. That's what I'm really proud of that. But before we get there, this is not based on number of hits. Like I will read out the top 5.
I got it. Let me explain all this here. Let's not jump in. You can, because this is where it gets a little contentious. So before he makes the rules, I'm going to make the rules. And the rules are I need 4 guys and I need explanations. So you can do that. You can look at who's got the most, who has the biggest, I don't know, whatever you want to do it by.
All right.
Who would like to start?
Wally, I want to hear your nonsense. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know what, Wally, you were starting already. So why don't you kick us off with your Sens Mount Crushmore?
Okay, but I think it's important to point out that it's not based off of the number of hits. It's based on how exciting they were as hitters.
Impact.
All right? Impact. So Chris Neil is number 1. And I know he leads the team in hits all time. But I like Mark Borowiecki. You're coming on the left side. You don't know if Boro's going to take your head off or not. He sometimes takes himself out of position to make that hit. I'm okay with that. I thought Mike Fisher, pound for pound, was probably the strongest player to ever play for the Ottawa Senators. And then I'm going to follow it. This pains me. I'm putting Marc Methot on my Mount Crushmore.
Put him only
for tell me how much it hurts.
How
does it taste, Wally?
I was going to put Alfie there based just on hitting Darcy Tucker, but I put you there.
Oh, fair. I forgot about the Tucker.
You hit only because I can never forget this hit. And I know there's others, but the Nick Foligno one is obviously one, but you hit Sidney Crosby with I want to say it's a hip check. And then he hit Pascal Dupuis and actually ended his career. I know you weren't trying to do that.
I don't.
But point is, you could take 2 guys out of 1 play. That's how good you were at hitting. So
thank you, Wally.
That's my Mount Crushmore.
Okay,
that's good.
I think it looks pretty good. And to be fair, it's weird that you preface that because you picked 3 of the top 5 hitters.
There's something there, right? Like
so, but you're not wrong. Yes.
So number 1 is no, there's no question. It's Chris Neil. I mean, just playing with him. The impact, and he's just this brick shithouse. Like for those who have not seen Nealer off the ice, you guys have seen him. He's not that short. You know, he's a good 6 feet, I want to say, but like thick and strong. And is the impact of those hits. I mean, you could just feel it on the bench. It hurt me watching them. So Nealer's my number 1. I'm going to put myself at number 2 because of the art form that I brought to Ottawa. So everybody listening, you were all very welcome for the show I put on. Very difficult thing to do. I don't think I have enough time to explain, so I'll move on. And then, no. Okay. Joking aside though, I am for sure at number 2. And then I've got Boro's in there somewhere. I have a hard time putting him ahead of guys like Chara and Volch, because Volchi had a bit of a hybrid hip check once in a while, and he would injure guys. And I had an appreciation for that because when I grew up in my teens, I was watching Volchenkov and I was watching Chara. Those were like my favorite players. So I've got a little bit of a bias there. And honorable mention for sure, Mark Borowiecki. No question. He's my guy. I like how he handles himself off the ice as well. But for sure, I'm number 2. And that's really all that matters.
Okay. I think that's a good one here. Somebody a notable maybe omission by both of you guys before we jump back in here is Brady Tkachuk. Brady Tkachuk.
Oh, yeah, I know, but Brady's just getting started, so I don't want. And Brady, a lot of Brady's hits are along the walls, like the rub out kind of hits and stuff. So
quantity over quality.
I love Brady.
Quantity over quality is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay, but that being said, he is 6th all time on the Sens in hits already. He's 5 away from 1,000.
Crazy. He's an animal.
Like that's crazy in itself. I would like to point out, because you thought that you were so great at it, you're 13th all time on the Ottawa Senators hit list.
The nice thing about my position is that I'm 13th because unlike a lot of other players on that list, we had more puck possession when I was on the ice. So typically speaking, it's hard to hit people when your teammates have the puck.
I see. So you're a puck carrier too.
Like that 2017 run, we didn't even play in the final. And I think I still finished like third in the playoffs in hits. I think.
Yeah, you were a beast that year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're done fluffing Mark up here.
Yeah.
We can move on.
You're
Thank
number,
you.
yeah, you're number 2 on yours.
I'm gonna
So
go
that's
tell
it.
my wife I want to come back, and then I'll skate for
Yeah, there you
30
go.
minutes, and I'll have to ice my knee for a week. So
Okay, there it is. Mount Crushmores. I think they're both pretty good. I think you guys gave good reasons there too. It's always nice to remember some of the older guys too.
yeah, agreed.
Volchenkov and those guys. So yeah, nice little trip down.
Yeah, and well done on the graphics.
And
as
Craig,
always,
thanks for allowing myself to pump my own tires.
we need a more of a
You sh-
platform for you to be able to express how good you really were. I think is what we need.
he should never have been allowed to vote for himself. That should have been a rule.
I know.
Somehow. I'm surprised you're not number 1.
Yeah.
I thought about it.
Great stuff as always. We'll be back again. That is our episode for this week. You're watching the Wally and Methot Show, brought to you by Ridge Rock Brew Co. We'll see you next time, boys.